long ago, before they flew to Australia, far away from the old Shamrock Shore. I wish I could hold him so he'd understand how much I loved him, what it means to be a man. The tears sometimes fall when I look in those eyes. I see myself in the eyes of my father.
I'd like to welcome Vincent Cross to Mostly Folk. Vincent, I've known Vincent for quite a long time, almost since when I began broadcasting on WIOX radio. What was your first album that you came out with, Vincent?
Ah, that's a great question.
I don't remember. I must have it here. A town called no, Home Away from Home, a town called
Yeah,
Norma.
if you've
Okay.
got that one, yeah. I mean, I did an EP before that. It was done in the Isle of Man back in,
Ah,
but that was like 2002. And it wasn't a full album, so I always thought to myself, well, that's not a full body of work. So the fullest body of work I think was the Home Away from Home. Yeah.
okay. So let's talk about Vincent Cross for those folks who don't know you. Talk about where you came from and how you got involved in the music industry and all of that good kind of stuff.
Well, that's a good point. Where I came from is still under debate. You probably you probably notice in most of the songs, even Home Away from Home, A Town Called Normal, Old Songs from Modern Folk, and the new album, A Place Where Songs Come to Live. I've sort of been dealing with the concept of what it means to be from anywhere since I was born. Because after 3 months of being born, my parents moved from Ireland to Australia, and then they stayed there and moved back after 10 years back to Ireland. And for, I think the music sort of was there hovering around in me, waiting for a chance to take root. And I think it sort of started to take root in a serious way just as I was finishing what you call high school. And in Ireland, they call that secondary school. And that took me sort of, I call it the great distraction, because I just followed this kind of I was curious about being on the road with Jack Kerouac. I was curious about Woody Guthrie, and I saw the two of them intersect in a way that meant that if you could play, you could make enough money if and you could just travel around. And I spent a handful of years just kind of bouncing around Europe and the UK, and every now and then I come back to Ireland and say hello to the parents and I did that for quite a while, and I was just trying to figure out what it. I was just trying to gather material, I think, and try and figure out who I was in the grand scheme of things. But you can only kind of do that for a certain amount of time before, shall we say, the demands of existence become more rigid.
Yeah, right.
And you got to figure out, my grandfather referred to that stage of my life as being a bum. And as much as I
He might have
appreciate,
been right.
yeah, much as I appreciated the comment or the compliment, I did feel that there was something that I like being outside of society because it's a great way to view society, and it's the same way as being a performer. I sometimes prefer not to be on stage, and rather than be the person that people want to listen to, I want to be the person that's listening to what people are saying as if I'm not there.
Huh.
That's where a lot of the
Interesting.
great lines come from for me. A lot of all the interesting stuff gets confirmed by what's happening around me. I can think up things, but when I hear other people say the things that speak to me, I then know that it's not just me with that idea, and then it's worth investigating in a song.
Mm. How did you begin this? I mean, before before you went out on the road. You're in mostly now Australia and England. And what kind of music did you listen to? What were your influences that uh, made you get on this path?
Well, I'm based in New York now, and
No, I
what's
know that. Yeah.
but and I do tour mostly, Europe and I do Australia. I have one coming up now. Um, what I don't know when you say it's like Cat Stevens says, I'm on the road to find out, I always loved that kind of philosophical um songs for me just became this medium that no other that spoke to me in the way that I read this the other day. It's like songs have the capacity to overcome the limitations of language while still using words, and I was trying to figure out what my values were, and this album is kind of like that too. I think there's a thing called an ethical will,
Mm,
where I think I think it might be uh I think Hebrew or something. I'm not sure exactly, but a
mm,
father would leave behind a document that would contain their values and beliefs to the son,
mhm,
and these were this will or this ethical will would be passed along. And you can only get to that point, where you have any values if you investigate your own personal philosophy and try and figure out where you stand on things and what's of importance to you. And try to root yourself to something to live by, and I think I was trying to do that. Maybe all the shifting around made it hard for me to find a central voice that was there, a dependable voice. And I kind of had to figure out what I had to listen very carefully to whatever my voice was as my only guidance for a long time. And songwriting was the tool for that.
mm.
I don't know if that made sense to
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Um, I'm speaking with Vincent Cross, who has a new album. The name of the album is A Place Where Songs Come to Live. This is what it looks like for those of you watching on television. And the album consists of what? How many songs are on here? Oh, wow.
12, I think. Yeah,
12 songs, right. So 12 songs, and as with all of Vincent's writing, it focuses on many different topics. And yeah, Vincent sent me a couple of videos. Well, let's talk about one of those. Uh,
sure.
in the eyes, well, which one here? My sister was like a mother to me. Tell me about that.
Well, that's funny because the title was it? No, that's not the title. I had written the song about my father, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we are just having a drink, and I was saying, I've finally written the song for my dad. And as a songwriter to write, or as any artist, I feel any commentary about for a son about a parent, particularly father, being the most significant male influence, in your life, first at least, and to be able to find a way to put all of that mystery into a song. I wasn't young when I'm in my 50s now, and so to enter that point, to finally be able to do that, I found I'd entered a stage of writing that I was delighted to be in. I felt I'd crossed into a point where the song itself was both honest and not scathing and not hostile and not angry, with all the undercurrents of whatever families have. And so there I was feeling fairly chuffed, as they say, very pleased with myself to have this song. And my friend said to me, she said, "Well, what about your other relatives?" And I said, "Yeah, I got my sister and and because I've only got my sister." And then that line just came out straight in the conversation. My sister was like a mother to me, and that little fuse, you kind of like the thing, and you go, "Well, how did that?" line become the finality of my ethical values of my sister. And so from there, you just work in reverse. So like I was unpacking it, going as far back as when that concept became significant, and then try to move through time to when it was challenged, and then to try and find where that might lead. And sometimes it just leads to the chorus, and you're just left repeating it because you're not always sure how or where it can go. And you keep going. Choruses are wonderful. The refrains are great ways to go back while still being able to go forward at the same time. The magical chorus to go forward and backwards simultaneously. So that kind of came from there.
Very neat.
My sister was like a mother to me when I was just a boy. Mama wasn't there, Dad was gone and couldn't care for me. Something got lost along the way. Things got kinda strained. But my sister was like a mother to me, and this will always remain. Rings on her fingers, bells on her toes. Where does the time go? I don't know. Well, my sister was like a mother to me, and this will always remain. If you see her before me, please let her know I never told her she was my hero, and I was not a good brother to her, and things got kinda strained. But my sister was like a mother to me, and this will always remain. Rings on her fingers, bells on her toes. Where does the time go? Oh, I don't know. But my sister was like a mother to me, and this will always remain. Well, rings on her fingers, bells on her toes. Where did the time go? I don't know. Well, my sister was like a mother to me, and this will always remain.
I'm speaking with Vincent Cross, whose new album is out. It's out now, right? And
Kind of.
okay.
I think the June 20th is, or June 15th is the single release for
Oh,
the,
okay.
and then June 20th is sort of like general release.
All right. By the time this interview airs, it probably will have been or will shortly be released. Once again, the title of the album is A Place Where Songs Come to Live. That's what it looks like for those of you that can see it. And it's available on all sources where you get music. And as always, my advice is go to Vincent's website. And you have it there for sale on your website, right, Vincent?
Yeah, I do the Bandcamp link on,
Okay,
that's a pretty cool platform for
right. Bandcamp is a good platform for musicians because they give them a fair share of the proceeds when music is played. Another one of the songs that you sent to me, uh, the video of it is Horses Are Wild.
yeah.
Talk about that.
I sometimes when I prepare a little blurb about a song, it's hard to cover all the various components that make that song. But well, I was driving out west just after the pandemic, and I was trying to get a sense of a location. Everybody had gone online like this, this. I find zooming and talking to a screen disorientating. Still, and even talking on the phone, um, we're sort of talking to people in other places, but not in the same space.
Yeah,
The space became I wanted to know how space related to perception. And as you can see, these are things that float. And as I was driving through Wyoming, I was trying to get a sense of the place, and the song started to float into my head, and some of the conversations I'd had at various petrol stations and diners and people at campsites over the last week or so. And your mind wanders when you're in that kind of space. You do feel like you're the first person on earth. You start to enter that zone, and when you start entering that zone, you start to wonder about where things came from and why they became the way they did. With Google, people now just go, "How did that happen?" And they get the answer. I don't really always want the answer. So the answer is often the end of the process. But why get the answer at the beginning? I'm thinking first of all about the wild horses that I'm seeing out there. And I'm going, how do they get out there?
yeah,
These wild horses. And, they were brought here initially, I think, way back by the Spanish, and they were tame then, and then they escaped or they were set free or whatever it was, and then they became wild again. And that kind of freedom is something I think we all kind of need. And with that freedom, your perception of the world will change. I think everything is in context. If you're looking at green grass, well, it's not green really. It's more like a yellow limey color in relation to the blue stream, and if you're not beside the stream you won't see the grass that way, and you won't get the sense of the mountains, as I'm writing it, I'm chuckling to myself because I'm going, nobody's going to get that, Vincent. Nobody's going to understand what you're really talking about. uh, and so you're just, and there's wonderful stuff about Billy the Kid, and the Hole in the Wall gang, and how that part of the country, how people were bandits, and just all of that Western mythology. It just it speaks to, I think in my head, I'm thinking about two concepts. The one is those that are gypsy-like and ramble, and those that are settled. And the ones that settle, the word itself means they've compromised something to be there. And the ones that keep moving. And I think recently I was at a bluegrass festival, and people are camping in the woods. And I just got back last night, and they're going into the woods again. They're trying to be unsettled for a little while, and then they come back to their houses again, and they're doing that for something. They're looking for some kind of meaning, you know, and and I think it's out there rather than on the screen. I think the meaning is out. You've got to go out into the woods, as Julia Cameron said, right? I think she said the adventure starts when you enter the woods. That's when you start to really understand things.
In the state, Wyoming, things ain't what they seem. What I thought was yellow is the color lime green. And I know if it's got its own color scheme, that it's only yellow, not lit by blue stream. Out of the corners of my mind rolls on forever beneath the big sky. In the state, Wyoming, the hilltops hold storms. Most horses are wild till they're reborn. And I know there's nowhere to run anymore. Well, that's what the state of Wyoming was for. Out of the corners of my mind moves on forever beneath the big sky. In the state of Wyoming, there's a hole in the wall where you can escape if you're an outlaw. Yeah, and I know there's nowhere to run anymore. But that's what the state of Wyoming was for. Out of the corners of my mind grows on forever beneath the big sky.
And Horses Are Wild is the name of that song. And Vincent Cross's album has 12 songs on it. It's brand new. And I know you're going to enjoy it. Vincent has been doing this. By the way, Vincent, are you on the road frequently, or what is your schedule like while you're out there performing and doing all the things that you do?
Well, I'm in that kind of, I guess it's when we talk about the music industry, I moonlight with the industry. I mean, I found that for me to be really creative or feel creative, I feel I need a lot of autonomy. And when I was full time as a musician, I didn't have that autonomy. And so I work a day job, and I've been doing that for a long time. And it's not something that you would see. It's not really that apparent in anything you would see on social media. But when I'm not I'm on the road for the time that I have holidays. I'm a teacher. So the holidays come, and I then have planned whatever tour it is and wherever I'm going to go. And there are some restrictions to that, obviously, because as a solo performer, it's festival seasons in America, and getting a festival gig as a solo performer is not an easy thing to do. You have to be one of
Hmm.
the big hitters for that. Um, so I tend to go where the markets suit, where the weather suits my clothes, as they
Okay.
say, you know.
Yeah, that's reasonable. As a teacher, what do you teach?
These days, I'm beginning to unpack that. You know, I mean, where are we going with AI being when reading and writing no longer become the skills?
Yeah.
Where do we go with the subject of literature and literacy? I think right now the systems of education are not prepared for where that's going to go. I mean, that's been a long time. I mean, when television came along, even Pete Seeger used to talk about the great benefits of television, and he was very disappointed how they weren't being used in a more educational process. They were being used more as a distraction. And I would kind of agree with him on that, you know. But that's where we've gone, and now we can ramp that up because now these little devices where a student can sit there and we're all suspect for convenience. You know, if we can get an answer easily, uh, we will do that. It's like why would I want to ramble out into the woods when the most convenient things become difficult?
Yeah. Thanks a million, Vincent. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you hopefully when I see you.
Yeah, some gathering. You know, I'm hoping.
You
You
never
look
know.
after yourself.
If you're up in this area, give me a buzz. Let me know. You got my email.
I
So
will.
we'll
Absolutely.
I'd love to get together. Have a great day, Vincent.
You too. Take care, Artie.
Bye bye now.
You know that sound, it can be scattered, just like ashes in the wind. And sometimes when I'm falling, I hear a voice again. In the end, if we're lucky, just like ashes in